All right, me and the team we were meeting a week or two ago. It just kind of came up. What are some of the simplest mistakes we see people make when creating their estate plan or not creating their estate plan? And I just thought it'd be useful to put it in a video because this stuff is really simple, and I think it'll be useful. So for number one, procrastination, right? And this is really just not doing an estate plan at all, not having anything in place. I can't tell you, almost without fail, whenever I go to an event, I meet somebody, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm an estate planning attorney. I do wills and trusts. Everybody almost always says, oh, that's been on my list. I've been meaning to do that. And I do a lot of seminars. I do a lot of speaking engagements. People always come up and say, yeah, me and my husband, me and my wife, we've been meaning to get around to this. We just haven't done it. So there's never a right time, but there is a wrong time, right? If you've passed away, it's a little too late to do it. Or if you've become incapacitated, it's too late to do it. So just, don't procrastinate. Easy mistake to make, but easy mistake also not to make. Just get it done. Number two, do-it-yourself plans. So, this is not self-serving. Obviously, I'm an estate planning attorney. We draft plans, but there's so much. So I'm not telling you don't do a do-it-yourself plan. For my interest, right? You might not even be in the state where I practice, so it doesn't matter. But I do see so many really tech companies popping up. Like there's a new one I've been seeing advertised online, and they're all backed by venture capital, and even maybe some of them were started by attorneys. And just because they're a startup or a venture capital doesn't mean that they're bad necessarily. It's just the problem is what I see is they try to create a very simple experience, which is great. I like that. You go online, you put in your information, and it just spits the document out. It's a pretty simple process, right? And even most attorneys that you work with, they're going to have fill in the blanks. They're not typically retyping every single word line by line on new plans. They have some templates as well. We have form templates as well. But what you don't know is that, and what those form builders that, from those companies don't know, they don't know every single specific instance, right? They might not know when your situation changes. They might not, hopefully they're updating with the law as laws change. But the thing is, you don't typically have somebody where you can call and go through all of those documents line by line, make sure that it makes sense to you, make sure that it really encapsulates your wishes. So again, for some circumstances, for some situations, it may be okay. You get what you pay for. I guess I'll leave it at that. And so you may be saving a couple $100, maybe even thousands of dollars. But for something there's so much at stake, is it worth it? So I would tend to say no. So that's the second mistake I think you could avoid. Number three, ignoring the possibility of incapacity. Most, again, do-it-yourself plans don't take into consideration what happens if you have Alzheimer's, have dementia, or maybe are in an accident and you're in a coma or for a little while, or you're rendered in a vegetative state. Who can manage your affairs? Who can, if there has to be a guardianship, if there has to be a conservatorship? This is something a lot of times people just don't plan for. They don't think about it. Frankly, it's just not something we really want to think about. But even so, it's just something that when we think about estate planning, we think about doing a will, we think about who gets what of my stuff. We don't really think about the incapacity piece. And that's, probably worse than death in a lot of instances, because you die, you don't really know that you're dead. You're incapacitated. You could have 5, 10, 15, 20 more years in that state, especially if you've got Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, something like that. So you need to make sure you plan for that. Number four, choosing the wrong fiduciaries. So you want to pay very close attention to who you name as your personal representative, as your executor, as your agent in your power of attorney, as your healthcare agent, your healthcare proxy, or as your legal guardian. Who do you want to name? Now, this is a much longer conversation, but just because you've known the person for 50 years, may not be the right person, especially if you're doing do-it-yourself stuff. There may be legal requirements where you can't name a person who's not a resident of the state that you live in if they're not a family member. So you really want to spend a lot of time figuring out who should and should not be named in those fiduciary positions, because those can make all the difference in the world. If they end up not being trustworthy, or maybe they've got creditors, or maybe they're older than you and they pass away before you do, or they become incapacitated. So that's, again, we see a lot of mistakes choosing the wrong fiduciary. And number 5 is just failing to review and revise your plan as needed. I see so many plans that were done 15, 20, 25 years ago, and things change, right? You know, most of the time you're going to have to be updating your plan every couple of years. It may not be every year, probably won't be, but every 5 years, we tell our client to at least come in for a free review every 3 years. Let's just see if anything's changed, if we need to update anything. This is not a process where you just go do it one time, you put it in a drawer, and that's it. Your life situation is going to change. The people that you've named may no longer be the people that you want to have named. The laws may have changed. So just think about it as, kind of like a physical, a health checkup. You don't just go one time and the doctor says you're fine, then you never go again. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you're going regularly. Same thing with your estate plan, right? You do it one time. You're not just done with it. You want to be getting it checked. You're going to want to be getting it revised every couple of years. We tell clients at least every 3 years at a minimum, go in for a checkup. So there you go. 5 mistakes, very easy to avoid making. So I hope you find that useful.